Here now is Scott Uehlinger. He is a former CIA Russian ops officer and current congressional candidate in the state of Pennsylvania. Good to see you, Scott. Thank you for being here. All right, Congressman Gowdy's a serious guy, and he's generally very sober. He doesn't hype things up. Right. So when he says he's worried that the FBI might have used what was primarily a bogus document that was paid for, in part at least, by the Hillary Clinton campaign. He thinks that's the most serious piece of this story. Do you agree?
There's no question that Congressman Gowdy is correct. That is by far the most serious part, because we're talking about a dossier that's been disproven, uncorroborated, and a very poor piece of intelligence. But yet that went up the chain of command of the FBI, and the possibility that that was used as the basis of an investigation into a presidential candidate is egregious, because this is likely information that the Russians deliberately directed at Fusion GPS. They were deliberately using them as an unwitting or perhaps witting funnel of information to subvert the West.
Well, and Fusion GPS was paid by the Democratic National Committee, and the question is whether the FBI was doing the bidding of one political party that was out to get another political party. That's really dangerous in a democracy.
That's right, and certainly Russian intelligence has a history of employing such tactics, of using any means available to sow discord against a rival government.
I think you just hit exactly what this is all about, that the Russian intention here was not necessarily to help either the Trump or the Clinton campaign. It was to sow discord in our American democracy, to sow enough doubt in the minds of Americans, and they've been doing this for generations, that there is something fundamentally wrong with our democratic process. And it looks like they made great headway there.
They did, unfortunately, and unfortunately because of some of the corruption that we've been seeing in the Obama administration, that administration was even more willing to accept this Russian propaganda at face value.
Well, let's talk about the most troubling story from the Trump perspective, and frankly from my perspective as well, and that's the sale of a big chunk of U.S. uranium to Rosatom, which is the corrupt Russian agency that deals, or that it's a government business, if you will, that deals with all this. And one of their lead officials, a guy who was in charge of the Russian nuclear program in the United States, was arrested in 2015. And they began collecting, the FBI began collecting evidence on this guy right during the period when we agreed to the deal.
That's right. And the deal was, you know, there were eight members of the Obama administration who presided over the decision whether that sale should be allowed to go forward because of its national security implications.
And why didn't the FBI let everybody know what they were investigating in the case? I assume they would say because they hadn't nailed down the case yet, but still, don't you want to, knowing that a deal is impending involving so much of U.S. uranium reserves, wouldn't you want to let people know, Congress, or maybe under closed doors?
Exactly. And in your interview just a few minutes ago with Mr. DeGeneva, he pointed out the same thing, that Mueller, being part of the FBI and basically being one of the 8 votes that voted approval for this plan, he is obviously corrupted himself by doing that, by basically papering over the arrest of Mr. Mikoyan in the United States. They were willing to overlook that Russian corruption to move forward with the uranium sale.
What happens now?
Obviously the uranium, it's not often used in modern atomic weapons. I mean, they're plutonium.
But can we get it back? I mean, is there any recourse that America has? That's going to be a big
problem. And more important is that American uranium has been incorporated into perhaps Russian arms sales to some other country. We have no idea where the Russians could possibly be selling this stuff. So, I mean, the national security implications of such a thing are grim, that the United States' own uranium could possibly be directed against it.
It's scary stuff.
This is why this is a huge scandal that we'll find out more about as time goes on.
Scott Uehlinger, good to see you again, Scott. Thank you very much.